Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations race in N300 at Sardinia Race Track B. So this race was pretty much a two-car race. No other cars were really being used in top split. I'm not sure about other splits, but these were the two dominant cars, the SFR and the KTM Expo. They were the cars that were going to give you the best chance in this race. As you can see, the SFR dominating qualifying in this round, although I think in the first race I think the KTM might have actually been on pole. It was pretty much an equal divide through the grid. I actually started the first race in the KTM because I saw in the Asia regions that the KTM was quite dominant, so I decided to try the KTM out. Didn't really give myself enough practice time and didn't really get the feel of the car, so I went back to this race, the second race of the day, in the SFR, which I'd done a little bit of time trialing with, and I felt a little bit more comfortable with in terms of the way it handles, the way you get on the power. I kind of understood the car a bit more. I managed to put myself right in the middle of the field in this top split race in P10. Not the best qualifying, but by no means the worst qualifying I've ever done on the game. But you can see going through this grid, it's very much a 50-50 divide what people decided to use. Now the advantage of the KTM was the extra straight line speed that car has and the ability to overtake when in the slipstream. The problem with the SFR was even though you're in the slipstream, it was very hard to overtake any cars at all because it just didn't have the grunt. You had to really be really close and maybe on the brakes, because it was a bit better on the brakes into turn one, so that was an opportunity of an overtaking that car. But again, the KTM was so fast down the straight, if you were behind the KTM it was very difficult. So this was going to be an interesting race. I knew pretty much if you have a KTM behind you and you haven't got a slipstream, that KTM is just going to fly past you as if you're not moving, because it was a lot faster down the straight. So starting from P10, was just looking for a good race in this, moving the brake bias a little bit to the rear to try and save the front tyres. I think in qualifying I actually preferred the brake bias being a little bit more forwards than that, but for the race putting it a little bit rearwards. And now the aim obviously is just to try and see if we can get into turn one still in P10. Now the risk we've got is we've got an SFR in front of us, but we've got a KTM behind us, so this will be interesting. This will show you the difference between straight line speed as we start the race going into turn one. And look in the mirror already, you can see that KTM is already gaining massively, and I think possibly I could have gone defensive here, but I chose to stay in the slipstream. Possibly should have went defensive down that left hand side, but I just stayed on the right because I felt like it was going past no matter what, whether I would have gone left or right. But maybe I could have defended, but like I say, defending there could have lost us the slipstream train, which is so important in these races, in the N-class car races. You see, you know, if you lose that slipstream, you end up just losing a massive amount of time. So I kind of didn't want to battle too hard and lose the group of cars that are ahead of us. As we see there, two cars going side by side, nearly three cars going side by side into this long right hand corner. Very strange corner that you can actually open up some overtaking opportunities by going very tight to the apex. It's very hard to run the wide line through that corner because you end up running off into the gravel. As we now work our way downhill, I do love this track. Not amazingly strong at it, but I do like the layout. It's really fun to drive into this very heavy braking zone where you've got to really try and hit the apex spot on onto the curb. You see how clipping it there enables you then to get on the power all the way up the hill and use some of that blue tarmac on the left hand side, and then again into this really nice but tricky left hand corner. You've got to try and swing it in there, clip the apex on the curb and get on the power very early as we now work our way uphill into the final corner. Again, probably the hardest corner on the track in my opinion. You've got to brake very early, make sure you get the car rotating through the corner, and then get on the power extremely early and try not to run too far wide, although you can get away with running reasonably wide. There is Fatal in front of us, has a mistake there, and that's going to leave him very vulnerable now into turn one. If I can get the slipstream and then go down the left hand side, I'm going to go straight down the left hand side. He decided not to defend, he decided to get the slipstream at P9. I'm going to take that left hand side and see if we can hold the inside and outbrake him into turn one, which it looks like we're going to be able to. He tries to hang it around the outside, we give him a bit of space, but he's not able to carry the speed through there, so I move myself up a position back into the top 10 now after losing that position at the start. And now you can see behind Fatal is Tenka, our best friend, putting Fatal under a lot of pressure there it seems as we go through this long left-hander and then into this really long right-hander that leads onto the downhill section. You can see I've got a bit of a gap though to Fatal, which is it should enable me to be safe for a bit from Tenka if Tenka does enable to get past Fatal as we go downhill and try and put P9 under some pressure. You can see that P9 is nearly out of the slipstream range. Obviously in these races. The slipstream is around 1.3 to 1.4 seconds in terms of distance. Even though we're running the real slipstream for these races now, they seem to have increased the distance that road cars pick up the slipstream from. So again, it's a mistake that they've made, in my opinion, with the settings. I think they need to go back to some like the old real slipstream, so we only get it from about 7-8 temps back. I feel that this long slipstream range makes it quite hard to do any form of overtaking, because you find that everyone picks up a really strong draft from each other. Obviously, if we were in the KTM, it would have been a bit easier to overtake, but as we go down the straight now, you can see that P9 is still in the range to pick up the slipstream from P8, and that means that I can't really, even though we're in the slipstream and picking up a massive amount of extra speed from this car, because this car normally tops out at 127, 128 on this straight, but you can see we're going to get into 130 maybe as we go over the top of the hill. So we're gaining 3 or 4 miles per hour down the straight, but we're not really making any gains on P9 because of the speed of that car that then picks up the slipstream from P8. So it's one of them. I really hope they think about the settings for these races in the future. I've talked about it a lot, but at the moment, this is what we've got to work with. But it's still an enjoyable race. I do enjoy racing in these road cars, even though I'm not particularly strong on them. You do find the racing quite close, quite compact, as P9 nearly makes an error there, getting on the power on the curb, nearly losing the rear of the car as he puts the power down, trying to bite this SFR in very close at apex, leaving it in 4th gear. You see there, this SFR really likes an early upshift. You see me early upshifting on the downhill section as well, because when you've got that extra momentum from the downhill slope, it really does like to be shifted very early as we go into that heavy braking zone again. And P9 seemed to be struggling through this corner. He wasn't able to carry as much speed as the SFR, runs a little bit wide again, and he looks very vulnerable now as we come into this left hand corner. Will he be able to hit this apex as well as I can? But one thing about that KTM is that I found when I was driving it, it doesn't like that left hand corner. It has to stay a little bit away from the curb. You can get it right, but it is very tricky to drive compared to the SFR, as we now put him under a lot of pressure. But again, he's going to be saved pretty much by the straight line speed that KTM has, as he really hits that corner quite nicely and gives him good exit speed down this straight. And then again, he's picking up the slipstream. I'm picking up his slipstream. Fatal's got my slipstream. You can see still within range of the slipstream behind, but we've got enough of a gap that he's not going to be able to make a move onto me into turn 1, as we see 2 cars going side by side, P7 and P8 up front, battling away for that position. And that might hold them up a bit and cause P9 to pick up a stronger slipstream, which it does. You see, that gives him the ability to pick up even more of a draft now as the battling is going on. So very closely compact from P6, 7, 8, 9, myself, and even ahead of that, it seems that only P1, Vivaris, is really building up any sort of lead, with William Giorgio behind him as well. I think they're pulling away a bit. And then P4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, myself, all very close together in this battle at the moment in this race as we go through that sector. The purple sector, the SFR obviously very strong through there. I think the KTM was stronger on obviously the straight, so that's where that car makes up its time on the main straight to get the fastest lap of the race. I think for Varas, I can't remember if he was in the SFR or the KTM, possibly in the SFR, the same as myself. One thing I think I was doing wrong was possibly the shifting, as I had a little look up the inside there. It looked like P9 braked a little bit too early, to be honest, but that could be the KTM catching him out a bit. You have to brake a little bit earlier in that car. The SFR can brake later, but that's put me under pressure now from TG Tenka, my best friend on GT Sport, as we now work our way through this long left-hand corner, pretty much flat out in these cars, and then into that final corner. I'm going to be very, very vulnerable now from Tenka, and I have to say, I personally don't like Tenka being behind me, because I find him a little bit too eager to make some moves. But we're going to pick that slipstream up as P9 picks up a penalty for running a little bit too far wide. Very strange that he got that there, because he didn't run drastically wide. He just didn't get the car back on the track quick enough. As I decided to, again, maybe I could have gone defensive here, but I decided to try and play it a little bit safer, because I really didn't want to battle with Tenka too much. So we just let him pretty much take that inside line, as he still gives me a little bit of a nudge there. Nothing too bad, pretty fair. And then as we go through the long left hand corner, he's got the inside. Another little touch from Tenka. Maybe, I mean, he could have given me a bit more space, but still fairly clean driving in terms of Tenka driving, that is, as we go through the left hand corner. And the only downside to this is maybe if I would have defended, I could have still been in the slipstream range for P9 for when he gets his penalty. I didn't really think about this when I did this. I could have got myself up into P9 possibly, but I didn't want to take any risks with Tenka, and that is the only thing with the way Tenka drives. It kind of makes you not want to take risks with him, so I just decided to play it safe with that one, because I didn't want to do the final race of the day. I just wanted to try and get a reasonable midfield result out of this and move on. I didn't want to do the 10 PM races. I had stuff to do. So you can see working our way up the hill. We've got Fatal right behind us in P12. Having a look on that left-hand side there, you can see he's looking to see if he can make a move. But P9 again struggling through there. Obviously when he took the penalty, he's not had the exit speed going through the corner. And now he is under pressure from Tenka also down this straight, possibly as now I'm trying to pick up Tenka's slipstream, but we got 2 KTMs in front of us. But the good thing is now we've got the SFR behind us, so I shouldn't be as much danger in terms of being overtaken into turn 1 by the SFR, because if I'm picking up the slipstream from 2 KTMs, I should have plenty of speed down the straight. As you can see that SFR just doesn't have the speed compared to the KTM. You can see them pulling away in the distance even though I'm in their slipstream. However, we're safe from behind as we go into turn 1 again, starting lap 6, so over halfway through this race now, and just trying to pretty much have a bit of fun in this race. I must say I did quite enjoy this race. It was enjoyable to be in. Nice close racing, pretty fair. Even Tenka was pretty fair with us. I did expect him to be a bit more rough than he was. He was actually quite fair for a change as we go through this left hand corner, seeing if we can look for a move. I was still trying to see if I could find the place back past Tenka if possible, but like I say, I didn't want to take any risks because it's not really worth risking too much when you come up against Tenka. As you can see, P8 also struggling a bit there. It looks like he's dropped back and lost the slipstream from P7, so this is going to be put P8 under a lot of pressure in that SFR. You can see him just in the distance there, driving the SFR, and he's got 2 KTMs behind him. That's going to be very difficult to keep them behind. And you can see again through this section, the SFR much stronger than that KTM. I was able to get very close through here and take a much tighter line there and get on the power much earlier. You can see getting very close again to Tenka. And this means I might be able to get close enough down the straight, but again, it's going to be a situation where possibly that KTM's power is just going to be too much. You can see it even on the uphill section. The SFR really struggles on the uphill zone where you need that power and that torque to really stay anywhere near the KTM. As we start the next lap, finishing lap 6, about to start lap 7, and you can see again we're safe from Fatal Vasca behind us. He's not going to be able to make a move, but you can see that P9 is going to go for a move on that SFR. And again, the SFR doesn't really defend. You can see a lot of people were just choosing not to battle it too hard, but Tenka tries the move as well and actually gives him a little nudge out the way. It was a little bit aggressive. He came from quite far back when I think P10, the SFR actually was giving space to P8, and Tenka kind of took advantage of that. Little bit of a dive bomb, but still he did it fairly cleanly, and again quite clean for Tenka. But that means we've now got the SFR in front of us, a car that we're more likely going to be able to make a move on because hasn't got the straight line speed that the KTM has. However, that he's going to be picking up that slipstream. Is he going to try and get that move back on Tenka? He looks a little bit annoyed that Tenka's moved. Maybe he's going to try and put him under a lot of pressure and get him straight back. So I'm just going to hold back at this point. There's no point risking anything because if they get involved with a little bit of a battle, I might be able to take advantage and get myself up 2 positions as we go into the zone, which the SFR does tend to be a little bit stronger on, especially getting on the power. You can see the KTM just seems to struggle as P8 there going massively wide there and seem to lose quite a bit of time there as Tenka now right on the rear of P8 as we go through again to finish another lap as we go through these final corners, these really tricky corners. So we've got 3 SFRs versus the 2 KTMs in front. The KTM did seem like the better car for race in terms of overtaking as P10 makes a massive mistake there, and that's going to compromise his entry and exit from this corner. I'm going to try and go for a move. We're going to go to the right hand side, pick up Tenka's slipstream. He's picking up P9's slipstream. I'm not going to be able to get enough really of a draft, so I'm going to actually tuck back into P10's slipstream now, go behind him, and then possibly have a little look up the inside. Are we going to go for this move? Have a little look. We're going to go for that move, try and outbrake him into turn 1. We brake very late, screeching the tyres, keeping the gameplay view on as well for you there in the bottom left hand corner so you can see the action whilst the replay camera is on. As we've now nearly 3 wide through there, we're getting attacked from Fatal while trying to do an overtake. This is great driving, really respectful, clean, leaving each other plenty of space as well. I love to see this on GT Sport. Look at this side-by-side action through this long left-hand corner. Again, giving each other space. We've got Fatal right on the rear of us. Incredible driving. He's going to try and go through the middle of both of us, but he's not able to. I'm going to try and hang it around the outside. You can't do that on that corner, but we get a really good exit from the corner and back into the slipstream of that SFR. Some great driving there from all 3 drivers. 100% clean. No contact, gave each other space, and again, we're going to see if we can have a little look up the inside here. We're going to have to kind of go defensive while having a look up the inside because we've got Fatal right behind us. So really enjoyable racing going on these last few laps as we kick up the dirt there, and we've got the KTM having a mistake in the background. He's gone way too wide there. That's put him out of any chance of catching us up on that final lap as we go again to see if we can make another move on P10, and it was all because of that one mistake that P10 made on that final corners. He just lost the car a little bit there, which made him compromise into this final corner as we now go through it to start the final lap 9. Again, we both run extremely wide there, but you can see how we both brought the car back instantly onto the racing line. Now when you do that, it stops yourself getting a penalty, as the KTM up front as well, where the front tyres are starting to fade now. The car's struggling to bite into the apex and everyone's running wide there, and luckily we didn't have too bad tyres. I braked a little bit early just in case it did, but the tyres seemed reasonable as we go through that left hand corner. Just enough grip and traction to keep us in P11 as Fatal there having a look around the outside. Very hard to make a move around there. The front right hand tyre will be screeching like anything when you're trying to put the pressure on there as we go into the braking zone, braking as late as we dare and just trying to hold on to P10 to see if he makes a mistake that I can take advantage and get myself back into that top 10. There's a penalty up front, but it's only a very short one, a 0.5 second penalty for P9. It looks like there's been something gone on with either running wide, probably running wide like we did out of the final corner, and then picking up a half-second penalty. But luckily myself and P10 didn't get that penalty because we brought the car straight back on the racing line as soon as possible. So that's my advice for that final corner. Always make sure you get the car onto the track before the curb ends, and in general if you do that you will find that you won't get a penalty, as again now the car is really starting to struggle with a bit of understeer, this SFR. The right front tyre is starting to pick up a bit of wear, and it is getting a bit trickier to get the speed through them fast corners. But it looks like we're going to come home in P11. It doesn't look like Fatal's going to be able to make a move before the end of the race, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make a move on P10 as long as he does this final corner nice and clean, which we both do. Trying to take some speed through there, we both do it fairly clean, no mistakes made this time as we work our way to the end of the race. And quite an enjoyable race. I really enjoyed the battle just a few laps ago with P10 side by side for 3 corners, 100% respect, no contact between us, and that's the kind of drive. And even if it's in the midfield, I do love it when it's like that. It doesn't have to be for the winner for a race or battling at the front. As long as you're having good clean racing, that's what I enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification button if you're not already subscribed so you don't miss any future videos. I'll be back with more videos and streams over the next few weeks. I'll see you all very soon.